The Senior Rehab Podcast is sponsored by Health IQ. Health IQ is a special rate life insurance company for health-conscious people like you and me. If you're in the market for life insurance to have peace of mind and to protect your family, I'd highly recommend checking out this company. They are the only life insurance company to use data to leverage lower life insurance rates for active individuals. So the result is that 56% of Health IQ customers save between 4 to 33% on their life insurance premiums, which can definitely add up to big savings over time. To find out more information, just go to healthiq.com/SRP to support the show and to get your free quote. Hit me!
This is a Senior Rehab Podcast, the podcast for rehab clinicians that want to better serve older adults.
Hello, friends. Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Podcast, and I'm excited for you to meet two very special individuals, the first being Dr. Marc Rubenstein. He is a physical therapist in New Jersey. He runs Jersey Live Well. He is an active member in the APHPT community, so that's the Academy of Applied Prevention and Health Promotion Therapies, which is led by Dr. Mike Eisenhart. But Dr. Marc Rubenstein has been a big SRP supporter for a good bit, and he reached out and said he had met an amazing individual at one of the community lectures that he was conducting, and that individual was Ruth Levy. Ruth Levy is a physical therapist for over 65 years. That career is absolutely amazing, and she's not even stopping. She's still very active, in the profession, but then in healthcare in general. But they sat down, put a phone in between them, and hit record. And this conversation is priceless. These are the types of conversations that, for me as a 31-year-old PT, I can't get enough of this. To hear the perspective from someone that's been, in this profession for over 65 years is absolutely amazing. So I know you all are going to really enjoy this conversation. She talks about the lessons learned in her career, just some of the PTSD that is probably produced by some of the healthcare providers in our system, but then also what she's currently working on, and the 5 men that she sees every day, which is hilarious. But you'll have to wait till the end to hear that. So also, before we jump into the interview, I just want to let you all know, if you as a listener, a member of the SRP community, want to do something like this, where if you have a very interesting patient or story that would benefit the other listeners in the community, hit me up, shoot me an email, go to seniorrehabproject.com, hit the contact tab at the bottom. Definitely want to get more of the community voice in this podcast, going forward. So don't hesitate. I would love to chat with you about that. So enough rambling. Dr. Marc Rubenstein talking with Ruth Levy, aka Ruth the Truth.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Marc Rubenstein from Jersey Physical Therapy and Jersey Live Well. I am excited to sit with you here today and to introduce my friend Ruth Levy. Ruth has been a physical therapist for over 65 years, and we had the opportunity to meet each other over a month ago at one of my community lectures. I learned so much from Ruth that I thought it would be great to share her story. So Ruth, if you can just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your story.
Well, I don't know where to begin. I was born in Brooklyn and lived a very protected life because I was an only child. And it gave me the determination to accomplish certain things, even though my parents were afraid that I might get hurt or I might do this or I might do that. That wouldn't be good for me. And so one of the earliest things I did, I saved up money to buy ice skates. And my parents were so frightened, they were sure that I would get injured and have a great deal of problems. Well, I wanted to skate on ice, of course. So it wasn't a lake because I lived in Brooklyn, but they had wading pools in the summer, and they froze those little pools over for ice skating. And $2.50 enabled me to buy ice skates that were on sale at the Vigo, which is now Modell's. And when they came to look for me, they were sure I'd be sitting on the side crying because I got hurt, but they couldn't find me because I was there skating, and I loved the fact that I was on ice and that I taught myself how to skate, and that was a very, very great achievement for me. And I think that that kind of determination has been with me all my life, and even on my honeymoon, we had a regular ice skating rink, and I have a posture of Sonia Henney doing a one-legged skate with beautiful posture, and it gave me great thrills. And I went on to go to college, and I went to NYU, where I met people who had been in World War II and who were there, and I met someone in biology and talked about all of his work in physical therapy and his interest in bodybuilding and weightlifting. And the more I listened, the more interested I became. And then in the quiz classes, since I always got a 10, this gentleman who was just out of World War II came over and said to me, "Would you like to study together?" And I said, "Why not?" So he was the one who talked about how important it was to rehabilitate the veterans from World War II who were wounded. And at that time, we had every summer a polio epidemic in the summer, where polio was a disease that was not conquered yet, and there was no vaccine for it. Sabin and Salk had not been invented yet. And so I felt, gee, physical therapy sounds like a very interesting profession to me, and I could help the children overcome things like polio and some of the cerebral palsy and stuff like that. And so this was at NYU. This was where my interest in physical therapy became the most important part of my life, and so did this gentleman. So when we graduated in 1949, I became a physical therapist. I also became the wife of this wonderful gentleman whose name was Julian Levy. And the first position I had was working with children who had all of the problems that I had mentioned. And I went on to work part-time home care, hospital work, and I eventually worked my way up to being the director of a department in Long Island. And I was very, very pleased and very proud of what I had accomplished and what I had helped, how many people I had helped, and how significant the profession was and had become more and more important to me. And so I practiced, and I still practice what I preach. So by my teaching physical therapy, I practiced what I preached, and I'm still working and functioning at a pretty good level. And people told me to be careful, watch out, don't do this, don't do that. And I just look at them and just keep on going because I love what I do.
Ruth, we had spoken about, and you had raised your hand at my first lecture where we spoke about MOVE. And you had discussed this pre-traumatic stress disorder in the elderly population. And you just started to describe it there. Can you describe a little more about what you feel that is and what we can do about it as physical therapists?
Okay. The post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, has become very popular, especially after World War II. And the people who had been in very serious accidents or in gunfight, even though their musculature and bones were healed, because of that fear of it happening again, they just couldn't function properly. And what has happened with the older population, they have had no issues, no fear, no problems, but people start to say to them, "Oh, you have steps? You're going to fall. You're going to fall. That's no good. You shouldn't have any steps. You shouldn't be where curbs are," and so forth. And so every time an older person would see the stairs, they'd freeze and be unable to do the stairs, not because their muscles didn't let them up, but because their mind was set, because they had been preached to that they would fall if they saw steps, if they couldn't they wouldn't be able to do it. And my feeling is, if it was handled differently, that if you see steps, this is the time to start exercising. This is the time to strengthen those muscles, to work on your balance, to have proper railings to assist you to hold when you go up the steps, and you'll still be able to climb all the way up to heaven when the time comes. And I would like to see more programs in that respect, so that people would be able not to be afraid of the steps and develop that fear of falling, but to say, I'm going to be strong enough, my balance will improve, and I would like to be educated to have my body function so that my mind will enable me to lead a very, very useful life and a very charming life as long as I'm here on earth.
That's very insightful, Ruth. Thank you for sharing that. So to follow that up, another question would be, what do you feel are keys to healthy aging or successful aging?
Sense of humor is number one. I feel that being relaxed and looking and working and listening to people and talking to people with a humorous attitude, and not walk around with your face down and a frown on your face. I feel this is the most important thing, and if I make you smile, it makes me feel better. And if I shake your hand, if I give you a hug, I think that it makes for a very relaxed and enjoyable environment. And I think that not isolating yourself is very important, and to be able to talk to somebody and to listen to somebody is one of my favorite activities. And in the community in which I live, we have special programs going from aerobic exercises to strengthening exercises to things like yoga, and it becomes, and Tai Chi, which is very, very significant. I would suggest you look into that, because that certainly helps to improve your balance as well as your strength. And those are some of the things, just a few of the things that I could think of right now.
That's a great answer. Now, we are interviewing you today from the Senior Rehab Project, and their slogan is old, not weak. Would you care to comment on what you feel of that slogan, and how it's very important that we spread this message?
Okay, old is not weak. And the funny thing is, because the word is weak, it could be W-E-E-K, which means 7 days repeatedly, or weak, W-E-A-K, which means that you don't have the strength to do it. Now, I love language, and the older I've gotten, the more impressed I am with language. And old is not W-E-A-K, it can be S-T-R-O-N-G, which is strong. Old is strong. It depends upon your motivation and your desire to be not weak, W-E-A-K, but to do exercise, balancing exercise, strengthening exercise, meditative exercise, and that will make you strong, and it will not make you weak, W-E-A-K, but week by week you will see improvement in your ability to function. And one of the joys of aging is the fact that you can enjoy this, and you can share it with your friends, with your children, and with your grandchildren, relatives, whatever, and not to isolate yourself. I think that the W-E-A-K and old, O-L-D, should not be together. Old is a privilege. It's something that we should enjoy and look forward to every day. And every morning when you wake up, you should thank whatever your belief is, and then have a plan And that plan should be, how do I continue? I know I can do something, but now I want to do it. I have the will to do it and the perseverance to do what I plan to do so that I won't be disappointed with myself. A little fatigue is okay, but it's not because you're old, it's because you worked hard. And the harder you work, you may need a little recovery time, and that's okay. Don't do it alone. Do it with friendship and love.
That's a great message, Ruth.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that.
And now a quick break to tell you about our sponsor. This episode of the Senior Rehab Podcast is sponsored by Health IQ. I mentioned before that Health IQ is a special rate life insurance company for health-conscious people like you and me. They have a unique mortality model on health-conscious people that allows them to secure lower rates based on actual data. You can think of it like good driver savings on auto insurance. They also have a unique underwriting process where instead of using common measurements like BMI, they use waist-to-hip ratios, cholesterol calculations, and much more to demonstrate a more accurate view of someone's health. So if you're in the market for life insurance to protect your family and have a little bit of peace of mind, I highly encourage you to go to healthiq.com/SRP to get your free quote and help support the show. Thanks.
A follow-up question to your work experiences. We had spoken that you are currently still working. And I think sharing a little bit about what you're doing right now would be really helpful for people to hear, and the message that you have and the message you share with the people that you're teaching.
That's an interesting question, which can have many answers. After 65 years, I am involved with teaching people who are going to be home health aides, and they'll be working in the home with people who have disabilities, people who are recovering. But when you go into the home of a person as a home health aide, you're not just working with one person, the person who has the problem, the disability that you're going to help get him or her strong. You're also going to be visiting with the family. And when you come into a strange home, the people are nervous. They're anticipating, they don't know what to anticipate. So the important thing that I teach, besides discussing all of the various disabilities they'll be seeing, most important thing is for the home health aide, when they knock on the door and the door is opened by a family member or a friend, to hold a hand out and to say hello and to reassure them that you're there to help them, to work with them, and to help gather the family together. And also I teach them how to take care of themselves as home health aides so that they don't injure their body by not bending properly, by not sitting properly, and try to encourage the patients that they will be seeing to work with them, to do things that they should be doing, and not to ignore some of the requests that the home health aide makes. And I find that men are particularly unwilling to cooperate. And so sometimes you have to turn it into a very pleasant experience where you're helping them to recall. They're older people. You're helping them to recall some of the exercises and games that they played as young people, as children, and start to do that kind of activity with the patient. And then the patient doesn't realize that he's enjoying himself, and will work with the home health aide to strengthen, to relax, and to achieve a very, very good goal, which is to improve and not to decline in health, and not just lie in bed in one position and develop bed sores and things like that.
That's great.
Okay.
Can you expand a little bit more on the fact that how you teach them to care for the individuals they're taking care of?
How do I teach them to care?
Because I know you mentioned that to me when we spoke. You said something to the extent that, you give them hugs and
Right.
you teach them how important it is, the job that they have.
Right. Yes. They're starting out at the very, very basic level of health care, and yet their job is so important because they have to have the motivation, and they have to know how to smile, not artificially because the patient can sense that, and to spend time with the patient, listening to them, helping them move, helping them to eat if they are able to eat by themselves, but making sure that they do it properly, and to hold the different kinds of instruments. Most of the patients will not be using cell phones. So my very, very big suggestion is cell phones are not really appropriate when you're sitting with the patient at the patient's bedside, because if they go into cardiac arrest and they need immediate help, and you're on the cell phone as a home health aide, you're not going to be able to help your patient. So you put the cell phone away when you come, and you learn how to react and respond to the patient's attitude, physically and emotionally. And when they do something right and they do something well, you give them a smile, you give them a hug. If they can shake hands, you shake their hand. And it's a very, very rewarding experience to teach somebody how to do something properly, and you see that they're getting better because they're following your instructions. And I find that that's very, very helpful. In fact, I'm going in to Brooklyn this Friday to teach a group, and they could be Spanish sometimes, they could be English, and they can tell by your actions that you care and you want them to understand what's happening so that they can carry that attitude into the patient's home. It's not a job. It's a very, very caring and passionate and full of compassion for helping the people that you'll be working with.
That's wonderful, Ruth. Really insightful. So I think it would be great to wrap up. Ruth just told me humor is the best medicine. So with that, the question will be, who are the men in your life? And she knows what I'm asking about here.
Okay. There are 5 gentlemen that I see every day. In the morning, willpower helps me out of bed. Then I go to see John. After John, Charlie Horse comes along. And he's a little bit of a problem, but he's such a nice person. I'm happy to see him, and we spend some time together. And then after lunch, arthritis comes, and he is quite a character. He doesn't like to stay in one place very long. So Arthur takes me from joint to joint, not the kind you smoke. And arthritis has a good time, and I have a good time spending time with arthritis. And we don't have to smoke to have a good time. And then at night, I'm very, very happy to go to bed with Ben Gay. I think most of you know who Ben Gay is. He's a wonderful person and makes every part of your body that hurts feel good. And yet, I have a friend who always says, "What's wrong with going to bed with Johnny Walker?" And she always startles me. And I say, well, whatever makes you happy. If Johnny Walker is your choice after Ben Gay, it's okay with me. Good night.
Thanks so much, Ruth. That's great. And I totally agree with you that humor is the best medicine. So I wanted to thank you so much for sharing your story of positivity, your story of motivation, your story of empowerment, of caring, of the importance of exercise, that we can share with other physical therapists, we can share with patients. I really enjoyed interviewing you today. And is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
You're going to make me cry because you're so appreciative of the things that I have said, and I just hope that I can go on doing it, driving to it, and enjoying, because I may come home tired, but I come home impassioned and empowered and wait for the next day. And incidentally, I must get my proper hours of sleep in order to restore my energy, and then the proper diet, with all the good foods that we have out today. And the word is nash, you can eat things that, little snacks during the day that are healthy, with good calcium, with good fiber, and so forth. So don't stop. Just keep on going and have a plan and have a purpose in life, and you will be loved, appreciated, and I thank God for all of the things that have happened to me. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ruth.
Hit me. Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Podcast. If you only listen to these podcast episodes, you are missing out on 90% of the Senior Rehab Project. Hop on over to seniorrehabproject.com where you can join the movement that's advancing care for older adults. You can join for free or become a part of the Game Changers, where you can get some free gear and access to our monthly meetup. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com. I appreciate y'all, and I'll talk with you soon. But in the meantime, do not forget to stay funky.